Hello, in today's video, I'm going to talk about these three revelations that have come to pass in my real life. The first revelation is Gift of a Heart on page 100. The third version of the page that got stored has this revelation saved as a part of it. I had this vision somewhere in October or November of the year 2021 when I was staying in room D4 of A16 Vijayanagar single story, New Delhi. The building is also called Swami Jagannath Dham. Two red curtains draw aside, one after another, and behind them is revealed a huge white heart that is throbbing not in the shape of a real physical heart, but that of the symmetric symbolic heart. The day before yesterday, on 15th of Feb, I was in the hall on the ground floor with the two twin girls that are left to us to be tended to as a part of the school's daycare program. And it was then that I noticed that these two curtains painted on this wall of the hall's platform. And this LED placed in the center is used to play dance songs or children songs or children rhymes for the little children to dance on. So this LED is that white throbbing heart between the two curtains. The construction of the second building of the play school got completed in the last year, which was 2024, and the paintings on the play school's walls, they are decided by the Sanford team and not by us. 2. Page 93. Number 2. The Wedding Dream. I will be talking about these two events. This is the fourth event from the dream. After a while, I left that food zone and found myself sitting with an aunt who was represented to be resting on a bed with her back resting against a wall to my left as I ate with her, and I was wearing the bracelet that she had given me. The aunt that I'm referring to here is Dr. Bharti, who had come to meet me on that day. It was around March 2022 because of a relative who was to be admitted to a hospital in Delhi, and because she was there, she WhatsApped me to let me know that we could meet. And when we met, she was wearing a tunic set printed in blue and white, and her eyeglasses had a beaded neck chain attached to them. And I had already informed her that one of the two bracelets that she had gifted me during the first and the most recent visit to her home, which my dad had arranged as a part of a small trip around the city. Yes, I had told her that one of them had begun to lose its color, so that she would know that that seller was not to be trusted, or so that she would talk about it with the seller, and she doesn't get duped later. So when she came to visit me, we went to have lunch together as she had suggested, and I was wearing that bracelet that I saw in the dream. This is the bracelet. I'm wearing that bracelet that she had gifted me. It is beaded in black, and at the front there is a love-shaped, heart-shaped, this heart-shaped metallic structure. This is the photo that pertains to event number 4, when we were having lunch at Big Yellow Door in Kingsway Camp. She was wearing this neck chain. These are her frames. In this photo, I have her eyeglasses put on myself as I am trying, and I'm wearing the bracelet. This photo dates back to 22nd March 2022, and it was taken on my Realme 3 Pro. You can see it was lunchtime when she took this photo of mine. This is the bracelet that I'm wearing, and that this photo was taken on 12th of April 2022. This is the front side, while this is the back side. This is the receipt for the second bracelet that she had got for me, and which I returned to her for her to return to the seller as it had lost its color. This is event 4 that came to fulfillment on its own, as she herself contacted me on that day, and she came to meet me, and then we had lunch. In the dream, she was sitting with her back resting against the wall on the edge of the bed to my left, while I sat on the chair with the table in front of me, and I was eating. In this real event, as we were eating, looking back at the dream, as I recalled the dream, and then I also shared it with her, I understood that she was the one who was resting, and I was the one who was sitting on the chair table and was eating and had the bracelet with me. And in the real event, I shared with her the part that had her resting on the bed and me eating. And she had said something like that God talks to his people, that God has his ways of talking to people. She had made a similar comment around the same line. This is a fulfillment of the event number 4. Let us go back to the notebook. This is the first version of this page that got stored. Let me read event number 5. I then started walking and left that aunt and entered another zone, which represented another event where I saw food preparations being done for a gathering. And then I entered a gathering of people who were not really dressed for a party, but were dressed casually. In that event, I talked to some of them and was wearing my long floral blue kurta. So this event was shown after this event, and in this event I wore my long floral blue kurta, and people dressed in casual clothes stood around me, but I could tell that it was a gathering. And I could tell that it was a gathering. Though the people were visible, the gathering seemed to be held in a dark zone. Though there were people around. Manifestation in real life. I went to my dad's retirement in March and met and interacted with people there. All were dressed casually, and I was wearing the same blue kurta. I just happened to pick it up to wear at his retirement, as I hadn't worn it outside even once, and also because of the fact that it didn't look too casual. So I thought it would be good for his retirement. Now, I have some photos from, these are the photos from my dad's retirement party. This is his photo with one of his colleagues. The photo dates back to 31st March 2022. This was the day of his retirement, or the day they celebrated his retirement, and it was afternoon time, he tells us. It was in the afternoon that they celebrated his retirement. We had lunch there at this, I don't recall the name of this place. It's there in district Kaithal of Haryana. He was posted at Barsana, one of the villages in Kaithal. So we all drove to Kaithal to celebrate his retirement, to this place where his colleagues had arranged this party for him to honor his retirement. These are some of the photos from the day. Yeah, I'm dressed in my long floral blue kurta. I and my middle brother, we went together to the guest house in Pundri. Yeah, I and my middle brother, we rode together in a common cab my dad had booked, and my mom and my youngest brother joined the next day. We rode together on 30th of March, a day before this celebration. We see all are dressed in casuals except my dad, who is a bit more formally dressed. Yeah. This was the event number 5 that came to fulfillment on this day. This photo was sent to me on 12th April, later, most probably by my dad. But the event took place on 31st March 2022. So this, we see there's an order. So this was event number 4. The photos were taken by Dr. Bharti. This was from a later day. This is the bracelet she took with herself to return to the seller. Yeah, and this is my dad's retirement, as was shown to me in the dream. Event number 6. This is the event of the wedding. Let us read the event. I went out at night wearing my long denim skirt and pink upper woolen wrap. I was taking turns and moving forward, and then I saw myself leaving a group of people who were standing together on road, who were supposedly saying something. The next thing I saw was Glory revealing himself from behind a car, and apparently he looked quite filled with joy, as his eyes were wide open. Please pardon me if I am stumbling in between, because the drones are trying to interrupt my speech, and they try to add their own words. They are trying to add their words to my thoughts, and they are doing so to gain undue control of my mind. They think by doing so they can direct my thoughts, or hinder with my thought patterns. That's how wicked these people can be. I don't know what they get by trying to exercise such control on another human being. No healthy person, no person with a no moral person, no healthy person wants to do that to another person, to another person. Yeah. So in this dream, in this event, as I was making rounds with that pink shawl that was given to me by Pinky Mossy, wrapped around my upper half, with a long denim skirt worn on my lower half. As I passed by a white car, someone suddenly jumped out from behind that car in front, and sat on vertically folded knees in front of it, while looking up at me with a bouquet of roses held by both his hands below his chin. So his eyes were wide open, and he looked up at me with a smile. So this is what I have written here. So the next thing I saw was Glory revealing himself from behind a white car, and apparently he looked quite filled with joy, as his eyes were wide open and looked teary as well. And he had a huge truthful smile on his face as I looked down at him, where he was dressed in red and white, the attire of God the Father in yet another dream I described previously, and had a bouquet of red roses in his fist close to his face, making the symbol that was manifested in room D4. So that posture in which the promised person revealed himself from behind that vehicle and sat on the ground resembled this prophetic symbol. This prophetic symbol. So it's a face. So he was looking up. It's also a bouquet. So he was holding a bouquet of red roses, and it also resembles a fist. And the bouquet of red roses was held together by both his hands, by its stem, held together below his chin as he looked up at me. So this is a prophetic symbol. This is a photo I took on 15th March 2022. It is also the day I shifted in room number D1. It is present in room number D4. When I shifted from room number D4, a girl named Barkha was living with me. She's a short-heighted, round-faced girl. Her friend Lavina was to was to shift with her, as both of them had booked that room because they wanted to stay together, in the same room, and that's why they had chosen that PG. And my PG owner had made that deal with them without my word, because I was unable to pick up his call when he had called me to ask or inform to ask me of the same, or as I was sitting with perhaps my supervisor. So when I was back in the PG, I got to know that, or perhaps within the same or the next few days, I got to know that two girls would be shifting in this room that I had created this uh, prophetic symbol in. So I had to shift to room D1 because Barkha's friend Lavina had to shift with her, as uh, they had agreed to stay in that PJ because they had to shift. They had to stay together. And she wouldn't stay with anyone else, as from what Barkha told me, that her parents are quite wary about who she stays with. And Barkha was one of her fast friends, that whom she knew. And Lavina wasn't comfortable with staying with any random person. So I had to shift to room D1. And the day that I was shifting, I took these photos. I took these photos of the prophetic symbol lit by a candle in the house of the Lord. This is a paperweight with some flowers and butterflies. I had bought it the first and the last time that I visited Dr. Bharti's house back in 2021. Yeah. So the next thing I saw was Glory revealing himself from behind a white car, and apparently he was looking quite filled with joy, as his eyes were wide open and looked teary as well. And he had a huge tearful smile on his face as I looked down at him, where he was dressed in red and white, the attire of God the Father, in yet another dream I described previously, and had a bouquet of red roses in his fist close to his face, making the symbol that was manifested in room D4, a face, a fist, and a bouquet. As I saw him abruptly showing himself up in this pose, I said that I was expecting this, in a very strong tone, as if, I don't know, it seemed to me in the dream as if I was I said it quite strongly, as if almost as if I was angry, but I don't know, but it didn't seem like anger either. Yeah. But I said it. I just threw. I don't know why I said that in that tone. I don't know why I said that in that tone. Yeah. Yeah. Said that I was yeah. And that's what I've written. That's what I've explained here. Uh, that's what I have explained here. The next thing was blurry. Why would I? Perhaps I wasn't supposed to be expecting it, and perhaps I thought that uh, he thought that I shouldn't be expecting it, and therefore I said that I was expecting this. That was my understanding my behind my response in the dream. The next thing, okay. The next thing was blurry, but when the vision of the dream gained clarity again, I saw him now having stood up and pointing with his right finger to his left. So it was my right. So he was pointing to my right. He stood in front of me, and he pointed to his left. It was his left and my right, and his face wasn't visible in this, but only his upper half holding the red roses. Apparently, he must be telling or inviting me to a place. After that, I took that bouquet from his hand and told him I have to talk to my dad. Uh, he then left and walked in the opposite direction to him, and then I found myself walking alone inside a place which looked kind of decorated, and was wearing the same clothes, long denim skirt and pink shawl. As I entered it, I saw him standing with other people at a distance with his back towards me, or the entrance. There must have been some other details that took place between him leaving. There must have been some other details that took place between him leaving after I told him that I had to talk to my dad, and before I entered into that place. But they were not shown to me, but apparently all of it took place at the same night. I think this is the most detailed event God made sure to show me, as out of all the other events. Mhm. Made sure to show me out of all the other events. While I was in that place, I walked and stood behind Glory, as he was now sitting on one of the red steel chairs in a row with other people on both sides. And then I saw another guy come up very close to me from my front and talk to me, while the sitting row of Glory was right to my right hand. So yeah. So I have written my thoughts about this last part of the dream. Yeah. So this my thoughts. This has not yet manifested in real life, and it also shows that all other attempts made by Glory are going to fail as well, because God has ordained his will already. I, however, went downstairs in one of his previous attempts of a local wedding, though I knew that that wasn't the way God had shown things to unfold. I went because I was expecting the unfolding of a different event shown to me, uh, and not the one talked about above, and also because they already organized it. At least I am quite straightforward and go to them directly instead of organizing events supposed to lure or mentally hint them into being a part of. None of the events above were expected or anticipated by me, but they did come to pass. Also, God is changing me like a potter. Additionally, God told me to lose my extra belly fat and showed me a model that I had to achieve, which is also the key that I talked about in one of the previous pages. Instead of keeping the revelations of God to myself, I will rather write them out and just shut my ears I will rather write them out and just shut my ears to what others have to say about them, because it's not me who ordained these events to take place. If anyone mocks or makes fun, they are mocking God. Also, supposedly, I must have had some sort of separation from Glory after the courting process, because of which I wasn't supposed to be expecting the event symbolized in room D4. I'm not sure why I said that I was expecting it, but I did say it in the dream. That's why he was teary. There must be many events that would have taken place before this, and I don't follow what a man or woman wants me to do according to his thoughts or timeline. I follow God and his timeline. Um, Dory may think of me as a dusty person who is fat and ugly and therefore has to be insulted in indirect ways, but I only listen to God's view of me and not a man's. Also, it was not a blurry or random face God showed me who supposedly represented the person he had promised me. I saw the exact face of him in those revelations. So it shouldn't be thought I'm looking for someone I don't know and who doesn't know me. I am not looking for anyone, as the promised person has already been staying in my vicinity. But some locks need to be opened, keys put in the right place, which would open door to the next thing. And one major key is to attain the model he had shown me. It's a condition set by God, so I don't have to think about Glory's view of the condition. So, he has shown me. In my thoughts, he should go around his business until God moves any of us, or until he nudges me to tell me that I am ready now to face him and start meeting him. I can't go by my own reasoning. Yeah. So in this dream, let me go to the later versions of the dream. This is a later version of the dream that I this is a later version of the dream, and it's got stored on 4th December 2022. This was the okay. Let me read this part. Edit. This was the only event which got its symbolic confirmation as the wall art in room D4, and when I made that wall art, I was just going as I was led and had no specific direction in mind, and it came to take that form, implying that it was led by the Holy Spirit and not by my own reasoning. It's a confirmation marker. It's a confirmation marker. When I was going out at certain nights last year to make rounds around my place, I had two things in mind. That my spirit-led act was either the initial ground that I had to set, like Joshua circled the walls of Jericho 7 times before they fell down, as God had told them, or like Naaman who had to go bathe in the Jordan 7 times before he got healed, as told to him by prophet Elisha. Or I could actually receive the promise as the dream showed. Actually receive the promise as the dream showed. A while after I had received that dream revelation from God, the contents of the dream went into my mental hindsight, as I forgot most of the dream because the events were kind of casual and could have been a part of a dream which may not necessarily have been prophetic. So yeah, but this one event, when I had the dream, I didn't know if it was a prophetic dream, if those events actually were related to my future. I didn't know, but as they came to pass in a certain order, I then knew that indeed it was a prophecy it was a prophecy in play, that it was a prophecy in play. Yeah. And then also, out of all the events that were casual, this one event was unusual and pertained to the fulfillment of the promise. So all the other events they were casual events, but this one event, and this was the last event, this was one of the last events. Yeah. So I remembered clearly this event alone. However, later on, as other preceding events came to pass and situations led me to make that confirmation marking symbol in room D4, I recalled the entire dream and knew that it was indeed prophetic and had a certain timeline that it was following. So I had not created the prophetic symbol when I had this dream. So yeah, so there was a situation that had arisen because of which that I have there was a situation that had arisen that I have talked about in the intro to the TSPR video, and because of that situation, I haven't to create that prophetic symbol. Yeah, and it was later that I realized that it resembled this part of the dream, that it resembled the last part of this dream, and the symbol actually pertains to the fulfillment of the promise. Yeah. So yeah. So, however, like Joshua and his army and Naaman, I recalled the entire dream and knew that it was indeed prophetic and had a certain timeline that it was following. Like Joshua and his army and Naaman, I took my stunt as the initial act of obedience that had to be performed in order for God to do his part, like in their cases. God's logic is not our own, nor are his thoughts and ways. Also, he showed me the vision of the night, look, and the time in 24 hours format, pertaining to when I was to set out. Also, he showed me the vision of the night, look, and the time in 24 hours format, pertaining to when I was to set out. Once I was confused and I was kind of feeling resentful towards Jesus. Yeah. Once I was confused and I was kind of feeling resentful towards Jesus regarding when I was to go out. And then I saw him in the spirit sitting in front of me on my bed as I was sitting on my chair, facing it. And he was holding a white rectangular sheet paper which had the. Okay. Once I was confused and was kind of. Stay away. Once I was confused and was kind of feeling resentful towards Jesus regarding when exactly I was to go out. And then I see him in the spirit sitting in front of me on my bed as I was sitting on my chair facing it, and he was holding a white rectangular sheet paper which had the time written clearly, and his expressions told me that he did understand how I was confused because of the way he had communicated it to me. So this time he showed it very clearly. So I did what I was being led to do by him. If I go to an even earlier version, yeah, so this is the part that I added, perhaps. I don't know if it's there previously. Yeah, here. Apparently, let me read this part again from this last event of the dream. Apparently, he must be telling or inviting me to a place. After that, I took that bouquet from his hand and told him, I have to talk to my dad. He then left quickly, and I walked in the opposite direction to him. And then I found myself walking alone with a slight limp towards my wedding entrance that had a few huge flower bouquets outside the door. I was wearing the same clothes, long denim skirt and pink shawl. As I entered it, I saw him standing with other people at a good distance, with his back towards me, or the entrance. There must have been some other details that took place between him leaving after I had told him that I had to talk to my dad, and before I entered into that place. They were not shown but they were not shown to me. But apparently all of it took place at the same night. Let me go to the most recent version. Yeah. In this event of the dream, after this guy who was dressed in dark clothes, moved away to the left, and moved away to the left. I saw Glory sitting on one of the chairs on my right, move one of his hands towards my back and lightly rub the back of my skirt with his palm. And then I took a few steps towards him and put one of my palms on his cheek, and then I put one of my palms on his cheek as he looked up at me and I down at him. This is the last detail that I remember of the dream. This is the last detail that I remember of my wedding dream. 3. Page 497. The Silvery Floral RS. August 7th, 2023. So this page was created on August 7th, 2023. And if I now open the different page versions, see, this page version was created on 8th of August 2023. And this is the revelation here. The Silvery Floral RS vision. I saw the side view of RS standing with his back leaning against a car. He was dressed in an unusual fluffed full-sleeved silver attire with the bloomed petals of a huge silver flower around his face, with his face in the middle. He is then shown as looking at the viewer, being the bloomed silver flower. So in this vision, I saw the side view of RS as a fluffed silvery being, as an unusually fluffed silvery being, with his face being represented as the center of a bloomed flower with silver petals. The center of the flower being the person's silvery face, with the person's face being the silvery center of the flower, and with silver petals blowing outwards. If I now look at these photos, let me open this one. This photo was taken on 23rd November 2024, around in the morning at around 9:12 a.m. It's 20th of Feb 2025. This is my little turtle. what had happened was that a few days prior to this photo, during day, I had gone to poop in one of the washroom in the room adjacent to the room after the dance and music room that I was staying in. This is a box of little turtle in which I put water for it to have food and to relax in, as turtles they live in water, on both water and land. So I had placed his box outside for him to get some sunlight on the ledge beside the glass window of the room. But when I was back from pooping and had walked to the end of the balcony, I found the turtle absent from its box. And when I looked around, I saw it present on the floor. It was quite dirty. It was trying to climb up on the wall. It was near the grill side of the balcony, trying to climb up on the wall. I saw that it had fallen at the back of its shell, and that the pointed top of its shell had broken, leading to the bloody part of the tissue, of the inner tissue of the turtle's shell, visible to me. So I knew that it had to be covered, or else the turtle would catch an infection, as it has to be put in water to be fed, and then it poops and pees in that same water. So it had to be covered up. So the only solution that I could think of was to cover it up with M-Seal. I went to the nearby shop and happened to find it, and the same day I covered my little turtle with this oval-shaped structure created by using M-Seal. When it had solidified, I noticed that there was some gap around the edges through which water could seep in. I was worried that the water would indeed seep in. The water would seep in and seep into the broken part of the shell. Therefore, I knew I had to cover up the edges as well. So I used the packet of Lays. I cut out some small pieces from that packet and glued it to the turtle's shell using Fevikwik. And I covered the edges of the solidified M-Seal with those pieces from the Lays packet. I glued those pieces on the turtle's shell using Fevikwik. The turtle had to be kept out of water during the time that the M-Seal dried, and these pieces got glued properly around the edges of the shell as well. The same or the next day, I noticed that some of the pieces had already detached from the shell, and perhaps they were not glued properly. Not all pieces glued the same to the shell. These were the ones that glued the strongest, and then there were those that had their ends loose. And I had pulled out some of those cut out pieces, and which led to the side looking less dense, which led to the side being this way. So, and then I also realized, that now the look of the turtle reminded me of the vision that I had more than a year back. Suddenly it occurred to me that I had that vision of that person looking like a fluffed silvery being with bloomed silvery petals around his face. So I looked up that vision and I found it on page 497. This version was created on August 8th, 2023. August 8th, 2023. So if you look at the reason why these petals, these cut-out pieces were glued on the turtle's shell, it was to stop the water seeping in through those edges and reaching its broken part of the shell. And in this vision, we see a man, apparently a Bollywood celebrity. We see his side view, standing with his back leaning against a car. So we are seeing his side view, and he's represented as an extremely fluffed silvery being. And also, huge silver petals boom out from his face. He carried a very innocent look on his face. He carries very innocent expression on his face. So if we look at this revelation in relation with this condition of turtles, with the use of silver pieces on the little turtle, the silver pieces were put out to stop the water seeping into the turtle's broken part of the shell. While here, the innocent looking person is a fluffed person, carries that turtle's look and is covered all over with that silver look. And the vision was set in the background of, it was a night vision, and usually in night, if you look at these psychopaths or whoremongers, well, people like the short fellow, and the likes, they stand at secluded places or in a road's corner waiting for a woman to walk to them, waiting for a woman to walk to their car as a prostitute. But in this vision, the person is shown to have a very innocent expression and is covered all over with that silvery thing, implying that he is resistant to any water seeping in to his body. While the people like the short fellow who created this tiny spygram situation around me, they stand on the roadside waiting for a prostitute, waiting for a woman to walk to them in order to get their genitalia wet. And they look at the woman as a resource, as an objective source, as an object just to get their genitals, their genitalia wet. Yeah, as was what had been communicated to me, but has continuously been being implied to me during the time that I was still staying in a PG in single story, and different flying monkeys would walk by in front of my PG, communicating something related to water. So they were using perverted language. Whenever they use the term water, it is to refer to women's fluid flow inside her genitalia during the act of intercourse. While this is a very innocent revelation, this is the opposite of what those people were implying, or the way whoremongers act. They usually sit inside a car, and their windows are many times black, and nothing can be seen through them. And the whoremongers usually sit inside a car, and their windows are black, and nothing can be seen through them. But in this vision, the person is standing outside his car, leaning back against it. He's apparently standing in a relaxed manner, and he's not standing there waiting for a prostitute. And he carries a very innocent look, and he's actually resistant to water. He's completely insulated, or has been made resistant to the impact of water, to the impact of what whoremongers like Death Conqueror would call as water, or would imply to as water. So this was the third revelation. So this is opposite of how a typical psychopathic whoremonger sits inside a car as a predator, waiting for a woman to come to him as a prey. So this is the opposite of that. This revelation is the opposite of that reality that people like the short fellow, people like that Conqueror live in, or what they want to create around innocent women, which is quite apparent by the way he has targeted me since the past many years. Is